I'm sure you've heard by now, Valve announced a whole bunch of new devices coming out early next year. So that is a new Steam controller, a new Steam machine, and a new Steam VR headset. I'm very excited about this. So, you grew up during AOL. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, see, Snap's excited. The console intrigued you, yeah. It's interesting. I think the console, yeah, the GabeCube as everyone's calling it, is actually the least interesting part of this for me. But the controller and the VR headset, I'm very excited about. So yeah, let's go through it.
Everyone, this is Steam Deck. Steam Deck is our powerful, portable, handheld gaming PC that lets you take your Steam library with you anywhere. We're pretty proud of it. People who own Steam Decks have been playing everywhere, and we couldn't be happier with the response we've heard from all of you.
Yeah, the dial-up generation 90s kid, that was great. VR looks cool. Too bad you get motion sickness. Ah, that's too bad. I have a VR headset, actually. I don't use it a whole lot lately, but, you know, I'd love to get this new one and get back into it.
We're excited to talk about the future of Steam Deck, but not today, because this isn't a video about the future of Steam Deck. This is a video about the future of Steam hardware. Today, we're announcing 3 new members of the Steam hardware lineup. All connect you with powerful PC gaming. All are optimized for gaming with Steam, and all are shipping in early 2026. Let's start with this one.
I have a brother-in-law who built his own computer. Looked pretty badass too. Yeah, I built my own PC too. I'd love to like snap a pic of it, but I'm afraid that I would somehow dox myself in the reflection because it's like a glassy case. Jerry had the Oculus HDK1. Yeah, it's sad what happened to Oculus, man. They were a pioneer, and now they're just shut down by Facebook. Wingus, good to see you, man. You're just in time for our first topic.
Welcome, valued customer!
This is the new Steam controller. The new Steam controller puts all of your Steam games at your fingertips, so you can play wherever and however you want. Just like with Steam Deck, we want you to be able to play any game with your Steam controller, even games never built with a controller in mind. It has all the great features from Steam Deck, like trackpads, gyros.
So this is actually the second Steam controller. I think they're just kind of trying to pretend that the original Steam controller never existed. So if you guys remember, there was a Steam controller. Old Steam controller here. Yeah, see here. So is this thing. Actually, let's see if... yeah, so there's the Wikipedia article. Stop that. Yeah, you guys remember the old Steam controller here? Because I actually have one of these somewhere. But it's not very practical because the trackpads are not nearly as good as a proper analog stick. And there's no D-pad. This trackpad... Basically, the left trackpad tries to be a D-pad, and the right trackpad tries to be a right analog stick, and it fails at both. It was not very good. But what was nice about it is that it tried to make it easier to map PC game controls to something like this, and for that, you know, it's not too bad. Yeah, this controller looks awkward to me. Yeah, you're talking about the new one. And I got the first controller, and the trackpad stuff's kind of odd on that. Yeah, exactly, which is why that's what I'm saying here. I wasn't a fan of the original. I had it too, but I wasn't the biggest fan. Let's see. Yeah, the buttons were too small. Yeah, and it was the layout was really awkward. Looks like hot garbage. Yeah. One of your site admins called it the Owl controller. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Just because the trackpads are like big owl eyes, maybe. Oh, yeah, this does look kind of cool though with the skin on it. Yeah, so now they got this new one, which has
gyro
like all
and back
the,
buttons.
which has like all the new Steam Deck stuff on it, and it looks a lot more refined in my opinion. Yeah, mainly the trackpads look like owl eyes. Yeah, that makes sense.
All in a comfortable form factor. Its next generation magnetic thumbsticks let you play with improved responsiveness and longevity. We put capacitive touch sensors on the thumbsticks and now on the back of the controller too, so you can enable precision gyro aiming with the touch of your thumb or your pinky if you're feeling fancy. Play for way too long.
So, something I did want to touch on here. First of all, I don't know. Does this look like it's actually comfortable to hold? Because I have a Steam Deck, and I found that it's actually not the most comfortable thing to hold for like a long gaming session. Yeah, exactly. They're coming out with their new gaming console. Nintendo's remaking the 64 again, really. Might have to look into that. But yeah, this looks like it might, just because of like the bulk of it and how like large it is toward the bottom, it might be a little uncomfortable to hold. Basically, where they added the trackpads, this basically looks like a typical 360 controller, but they moved the start select buttons around a little bit, and then the trackpad stuff is tacked on at the bottom. The trackpad stuff looks a little awkward because to me it looks like your thumbs, like the lower part of your thumbs, is going to end up rubbing against the trackpads. I do like that they put the buttons on the back, though.
And now on the back of the controller.
There's those little back of the controller buttons. Those, to me, those seem to be something that should be standard on controllers nowadays, because I find it way more convenient, especially when you gotta like click one of the sticks. On all my controllers, I always map the stick clicks to those back buttons, because it's a lot easier to press a back button than it is to actually click the stick without moving the stick around. DualSense is very comfortable. This just looks like it with an appendix. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you're really hyped about the Steam console because you're a console guy. Yeah, that makes sense. Interested how the controller's powered. So there's a rechargeable battery inside, and then there is a charging puck that they'll go over here.
The controller too, so you can enable precision gyro aiming with the touch of your thumb or your pinky if you're feeling fancy. Play for way too long with a rechargeable lithium-ion battery that allows for over 35 hours of playtime.
So there you go. It's a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. I'm guessing it's not replaceable though, which kind of sucks.
With Steam Controller, we want to make charging and wireless pairing something that's actually easy. That's why we created the Puck. The Puck is a combination wireless adapter and magnetic charger included with every Steam controller.
So that's kind of cool. Yeah, you're interested in the Puck. Wait, what do you have? The Steam Deck, maybe? Is that what you're talking about? But yeah, the Puck is a pretty cool thing. They combined the wireless adapter and charging cable, so that's a cool idea. Although it would be nice if it came with like if it came with a case like the Xbox Elite controller does. I just find that extremely useful. So like the Xbox Elite controller, let me look this up here. Xbox Elite Series 2. So I have one of these, and it... Come on, load. I swear. Anyway, 35 hours a day, 3 to 5 hours in 5 years. yeah, that's battery wear down. That's why I really wish they would make their battery replaceable. Well, yeah, I'm sure you will see people make aftermarket batteries and stuff, but the problem is getting into it and replacing the battery is not an easy task for the average person, you know? Buck is just MagSafe. Yeah, it is, but what's clever is that they combined the MagSafe charging with the wireless adapter. So with this Xbox controller, for example, I have to have a wireless adapter separately, and then I have my charging inside the carrying case. The case is with this, with the Xbox Elite 2, the carrying case is actually a really, really neat design. So it's a great controller, and I absolutely love that like circle D-pad that it offers, because I actually prefer for a game like the Arkham games, for example, not Knight, but the earlier ones. You tap a direction on the D-pad to pick a gadget, and it's just easier for like the corner directions to have the circle pad. My one major complaint about this is that the shoulder buttons tend to wear out after a year or two. Let me see if I can show you the case though. Yeah, here you go. So if you look in the lower right, it makes this really hard to... This is kind of hard to see. Okay, there isn't a great pick. But if you look closely, I know it's going to be a little hard to see because this thing is black on black. But if you look on the right here, there's this carrying case. And the way it works is, if you see that this square thing on the upper left, that square thing just goes right in the case, and it plugs into a USB cord. And the back of the carrying case has like an open place where you can plug the USB-C cord in. So in the end, when you want to recharge your controller, you just drop the controller in the carrying case, and it just charges through the MagSafe, which I think is very cool. So I do wish that this new Steam controller had a carrying case like this, in addition to the puck. Okay, snap. So you have a battery-powered controller with USB-C. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, yeah, my Xbox Elite is the same way. Yeah. EU directives will demand replaceable batteries in 2 years. Yeah, but that's in 2 years. So if the device has already been made, I don't think they're going to do anything for that. For any USB-C device, they demand USB for any sub-12 volt device. Yeah.
Snap it on to charge. Once you're charged up, snap it off again. You can play over Bluetooth or a wired connection too. The new Steam controller works with any device running Steam or Steam Link, whether it's a PC, Mac, handheld, smartphone, Steam Deck, or the new Steam Machine. Oh, this is the new Steam Machine.
So personally, the Steam Machine is probably what I'm least interested in, just because I have a pretty great gaming PC, you know? Yeah, the charging puck, yeah, no way that sticks to your table. There's probably like an adhesive or something on there that you have to use. But yeah, that's going to be one of the disadvantages. And that's why I think a carrying case would be nice, because if you have the case, the weight of the case would hold everything down. If it's $400, you're... Jeez. Oh, $400 for the Steam Machine. I was like, for the controller, that's way too high. But yeah. But yeah, in my case, I have a great gaming rig, so I don't really need something like this. Man, they put ice in my Coke. The controller.
Steam Machine is a
$40 is going to be a pipe dream, Jerry. I think the controller is probably going to be around 100 or so. At least. Maybe
powerful
150.
gaming PC in a small but mighty package, designed for your games on the big screen. It's quiet too, which is crazy since it's 6 times more powerful than a Steam Deck, powered by a discrete, semi-custom AMD GPU, enabling 4K gaming at 60 frames per second with FSR. Steam Machine runs SteamOS.
I like how they always do that now. They're all... I mean, at least they admitted it, that it's FSR. But they always tout 4K, 60 FPS, and then it's just the AI upscaling. I want to know what this thing is going to run natively. 6 times more powerful than 6-year-old tech isn't much. Yeah. I mean, this thing is meant for for people who just play on consoles, most likely. Because if you're a PC gamer, you have a PC and you don't really need this thing. I know it's cosmetic, but I'm a sucker for removable custom covers. Yeah, fair enough. Like the design, the GameCube does look pretty cool. Visually, it is a very nice look.
SteamOS made for a bigger screen, built for gaming in your living room, your office, or wherever you play, with the rest of your PC accessories. Steam Machine borrows some great features from Steam Deck, like lightning-fast sleep and wake, an SD card slot to easily expand your storage.
I do have to give some real props to Valve on putting SD card slots and everything. Because, you know, you've seen what cell phone manufacturers have done over the years, right? Just removing the crap out of everything. So at least by offering an SD card slot, at least they offer that much expandable storage on everything. And I do appreciate that. Yeah, I am curious about the internal storage. I know there are... there's some other videos that will go over this stuff, and we can jump into those. But, yeah. Yeah, with SD. SDHC and SDXC should be fast enough. Is it SATA 3?
And bring some new tricks of its own, like a customizable LED strip.
Well, Snap, I am sure that this thing, I am sure you can take it apart and replace the internal storage.
Which can show different system functionalities, or your own light show. Steam Machine is a PC, so run whatever software you want, and it works with all your favorite desktop and gaming accessories. Steam Machine is designed to work hand in hand with the Steam controller, with the low latency, wireless connectivity of the Steam controller puck built right in.
You know, normally... Yeah, then buying the 2 TB up front and putting in your own drive. You know, normally I hate corporate art, but I have to admit... Chad, I have to admit, I do kind of like this art here because it feels a little less like corporate art, and it reminds me of like some of those early 2000s cartoons. So, you know, I'm gonna give the art a pass here because it's not like the corporate weird ugly art.
And it's great for streaming your games to your phone.
That means it runs Windows. No, it's running Linux. It's running their custom SteamOS Linux. That is, I believe, a fork of Arch Linux. And it's an x86 device. It is running some AMD CPU. Yeah, this is an ARM. No, you're good. Yeah, it theoretically can run Windows, and I'm sure they'll release Windows drivers at some point. But yeah. Well, yeah, for anything plugged in, x86 is better. It's more performant.
Phone, tablet, laptop, Steam Deck, or Steam Frame. Oh, yep, this is Steam Frame.
So this is probably what I'm most excited about, because this might actually get me to get back into VR.
Steam Frame is Valve's next-generation VR hardware. Stream all your Steam games, VR and non-VR alike, in this comfortable, lightweight, wireless VR headset.
So if you guys remember the original... if you guys remember what Valve originally pushed, it was like those big tracking lighthouse things. So originally they were partnering with HTC with the Vive. I have a Vive. I did a whole bunch of Frankenstein stuff to the Vive, so I replaced the lenses, I got a wireless adapter for it, I replaced, I put on it like a battery pack, and yeah, it's crazy, but now they've actually made this thing the way it should have been in the first place. x86, even for heat bottlenecks. AMD, they released a study that ARM is just smoke and mirrors. Interesting. I thought ARM was mainly better for power efficiency, which is why it's used in like mobile devices.
Steam Frame uses camera-based tracking, so getting into your games is as easy as slipping on the headset and waking it up.
Yeah, and that's nice. I know a lot of headsets have started doing that kind of inside-out tracking, is what they call it. Yeah, thermodynamics. Yeah, but the really good ones, the best ones, still required, you know, the lighthouses, as they called them. So now that Valve has this, it's going to be significantly better.
Steam Frame.
And it's great that it's wireless, so it's got like the battery pack built into the back. All the tracking is done through the cameras.
Controllers, included with the headset, are designed with all the inputs you need for your VR titles, like motion controls and capacitive tracking for all your fingers, as well as a split gamepad layout to work with your whole Steam library. They even feature the same magnetic thumbsticks as Steam Controller for responsiveness and longevity. Steam Frame also pairs seamlessly with the new Steam.
Oh yeah, by the way, since they are talking about the thumbsticks a lot, I wanted to point out that they are using way better thumbsticks, joysticks than I think most other controllers out there. So the Xbox and controller, so the Xbox Elite controller joystick is, I believe, a potentiometer, which is a very cheap, crappy, yes, it's a cheap, crappy type of joystick sensor, and that's how you end up with like stick drift and stuff like that. And I believe the DualSense, I'm pretty sure that the DualSense controller, yep. So DualSense controller is also a potentiometer, and I'm pretty sure the Switch controller is the same way. Now everyone talks about Hall Effect, which is a much better option, but there's something on top of that. There's something newer than that, which is even better, and that's what the Steam controller and Steam Frame controller are using. So what they're using are TMR joysticks here. So this is a new technology. Yeah, I guess we'll just go off this Reddit thing here. So they're lower power, less prone to interference, and more precise, and requires smaller magnets than Hall Effect. So TMR is basically the newest, TMR is the newest joystick technology that is actually very accurate and is much less likely to result in things like stick drift, or stick drift is the main issue. So the fact that they are using TMR joysticks here, that tells you a lot about the build quality. They are actually really paying attention to how much better it is. No, I don't think the sticks are replaceable, Jerry. At least not without like a ton of effort. Yeah, exactly, Snap. I'm loving the minimalist setup with it. I remember older VR headsets would have a shitload of wires and peripherals, which got annoying to deal with. Exactly. That is part of why I like Frankenstein my Vive the way I did. But even so, I still have like all the lighthouses and crap I have to deal with. Okay, this looks interesting. You're sold. I want to know how much it costs first, because it's probably going to be like, what, $500 or $600? Although with the... since there is not... since there's not a whole lot of stuff that comes with it, it might actually be a bit cheaper. Yeah. Yeah, Hall Effect is the old higher class joystick. Yep, I remember one of the biggest complaints about the original Index controllers is how they would fail if you used the click-in button too much. Yeah. Yeah, mine never did, but yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, if you click the joysticks, yep. So I believe, I think the Switch 2 stick replaceable. I don't think they're user replaceable. Could be wrong. But as far as I know, you have to like send them into Nintendo or like get them professionally repaired like everything else.
Steam Controller, a great companion for playing non-VR games in the headset. To make sure streaming is smooth and stable no matter what, Steam Frame includes a wireless adapter that lets you stream your games from your PC to your headset over a fast and dedicated Wi-Fi 6 connection. And the game is streamed to your frame optimized for VR, using new technology that allows for the highest resolution streaming exactly where your eyes are looking. And Steam Frame is a PC, running Steam OS.
So that wireless adapter, this is something that they should have done years ago. Because the Vive did get a wireless adapter, but it's this weird, awkward thing that you have to plug into a PCIe slot on your main board. And then it's got like this antenna, and it's weird. And it adds a bunch of weight to the headset. This is awesome, because this is just like you plug it right in, and you're good to go. So I really appreciate this.
Frame includes a wireless adapter that lets you stream your games from.
Can you hook up the Steam console to a regular TV? Yeah. I think that's like the main point of it. The wireless sounds nice. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's an Android, I hear. ARM-based, exception. None of these things are running Android, Jerry. So I don't know what you're referring to in terms of Android. It's the Steam console is just the Linux box, and the Steam frame is also running Linux. I assume by ARM-based you're talking about the Steam frame. Yes, the Steam frame is ARM-based, but it's running Linux. It's not running, I don't think it's running Android. Yeah, I'm also an Android user. Yeah, the frame is running an ARM processor, but I believe it's running a form of Linux, not Android.
From your PC to your headset over a fast and dedicated Wi-Fi 6 connection. And the game is streamed to your frame optimized for VR, using new technology that allows for the highest resolution streaming exactly where your eyes are looking.
So this is actually really, really cool. I don't think enough people are talking about this. So back in the day, I mean, it still exists. There is a technology called foveated rendering. And what that does is it requires eye tracking, which is why it was never super common. But the way the hardware would work if you had foveated rendering, it would track your eye movements, and based on where you're looking, the individual game would render the spot you're looking at in high resolution. Would render the spot you're looking at in high resolution. And then everything outside of your immediate field of view would be rendered at a lower resolution. So it would tax your machine less to output the image. What they're doing here is based on that, but now it's foveated streaming. So the system will actually, to reduce the load on the wireless adapter, to reduce the amount of data that's getting sent out to the Steam frame, so you can get more game data through the wireless connection. It's actually rendering where you're looking. It is streaming a higher resolution image wherever you look, and then the outer part of that is going to be less lower resolution. So that is a very, very cool concept. So, and you can kind of see that when they
new technology that allows for the highest.
So you can see what I'm talking about here. The spot, that little cross box, that's where you're looking. And you can see that area is more high resolution, whereas the stuff you're not looking at, the eye isn't pointed at, that is blockier, that is lower resolution. So I think that's pretty cool. That is a very, very cool way to save on resources. Hey, we got Paul Adokin in the house. How you doing, Paul?
The more the magicer.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? In honor of Paul, chat, in honor of Paul, can we get some more support? Can we get another 100 kick subs in honor of Paul Adokin?
Really, Jerry, you can sideload Android APKs. That's interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about this for sure. Android is based on the Linux. Yeah, Android is based on the Linux kernel. Technically, you could call it Android/Linux, kind of the way you have GNU/Linux. ARM Linux, Android, kinda. Glad you're back, Sergey. Or the best ARM Linux is Android. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're sold on the GabeCube. I'm just curious about the price. Yeah, the GabeCube is probably what I'm least interested in, just because I have a great gaming PC as it is. I'm more interested in the Steam frame above anything else. Let's see. Streaming, yeah. Yeah, I'm really into the idea of streaming VR this way. Because the setup I have is kind of finicky, but this looks like it's purpose built to do it. It's weaker than the PS5. It's still, I mean, that's what the FSR is for, right? Yeah, so Android is Linux. Flip stable. Yeah, Android is Linux, but Linux is not necessarily Android.
Highest resolution streaming exactly where your eyes are looking. And Steam Frame is a PC running Steam OS. In addition to streaming, you can install and play a bunch of VR and non-VR games right in the headset without a host PC. You can also expand your onboard storage to fit even more games with a micro SD card.
Again, that is pretty cool. They have the SD card slot. I have to greatly appreciate them for that. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about Android sideloading so far, but it sounds like normal games will work. And they've got this... So in addition to... You guys probably know about Steam's Proton, right? Which is their Windows game to Linux compatibility layer built on Wine. But apparently they have been working really hard. They've been working really hard on building an x86 to ARM translation layer, which is called, I think, FEX or something like that, which we'll get to in a bit. But it's very cool. So they have actually found a way to translate x86 games to ARM, which I think is pretty amazing. You also heard the Steam Machine cannot run Battlefield 6 yet. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's all the, kernel anti-cheat garbage, so... dynamic resolution scaling is what is called using more resources on what's more likely to be focused on. Kind of, Jerry. So this is foveated rendering, or foveated streaming, rather than dynamic resolution scaling. So dynamic resolution scaling works by... It reduces the entire render resolution to hit a certain frame rate target. This is something a little bit different. What this does is it takes particular parts of the screen and renders different sections of the screen at a different resolution based on what you're looking at. Runs Arc Raiders, but has some issues. We might be talking Arc Raiders in a bit too. Canon 480p, but I think we're talking full HD. Aren't Steam Proton layers also contributed by community support as well? So I believe... So Proton itself, I think it's open source, but it is Steam's own project. Proton layers, I think what you're thinking of, Snap, are like different ways of using Proton, or like different Proton setups for various games. I wish Valve would just finish out their OS as full OS to get more software normies to move off Windows. I'm a software normie. Yeah, I mean, for a few reasons, I am still stuck on Windows. And I don't think I'll be moving anytime soon because there are some things on Windows that I just plain need. There are also a lot of things like modding tools and things like that that just will not work on the Linux machine. So, But also, you can't just depend on Valve to do all of this because at the end of the day, Valve is a gaming company, right? They're not... It's interesting that they found themselves digging into all of this when really they're just trying to help people play video games. Like, we need more... We need, like Canonical and Red Hat and all those companies. The companies that are actually built around Linux. We need those companies to start stepping up and making GNU Linux actually a usable platform for the everyday user. Because it is not as simple as a lot of people will claim to you to just switch to Linux. It really isn't. Does the VR headset come with the Steam Machine, or is that separate? No, it's separate. So the Steam Controller 2, the Steam Machine 2, and the Steam Frame are all separate things. The new headset Steam Frame has an ARM processor that could, in theory, run an Android and run Steam Big Picture for ARM. Yeah. Most games won't run an ARM, but there is a middleware for streaming x86 to ARM. No. So, Jerry, what they're saying is that they have created that translation layer, and we'll go over it. We'll get into it in a bit. I think most games are still not compatible with it, but the list is growing. And so that middleware is not for streaming. It is actually for running those x86 games right on the Steam Frames ARM chip itself. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so Wingus, you agree with my take there. NVIDIA is the problem with not getting Linux x86 gaming up to par. NVIDIA is part of the problem. They're not the only problem. There's more to it. So NVIDIA... Yes, NVIDIA is part of the problem, but in terms of everyday usage, there are a lot of other issues for, like, you know, everyday productivity and stuff like that. Steam Machine is AMD, yeah. No, Flutter won't run post 50% efficiency. I assume you're talking about the translation layer? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Steam Controller, Steam Machine, and Steam Frame. All built with the same DNA as Steam Deck. All powered by Steam, work together, and can be used however you'd like with whatever peripherals and accessories you choose. Everything you see here is the culmination of what we've learned from our previous hardware experience and what we've wanted ourselves as gamers. Powerful PC gaming in an open ecosystem, giving you more ways to enjoy the games you love and discover new ones. Steam Controller, Steam Machine, and Steam Frame are all shipping in early 2026. Learn more at steampowered.com/hardware.
Anything else, or is this just like a weird music video? Okay, yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, one thing I really wish is they would have given us like a price point and then like a date when we can actually pre-order this stuff. But yeah, so that is the base video. That is the Valve announcement on the Steam devices. So I do want to dig into it a little bit here. Gamers Nexus. I put out a whole video talking about... It's a 45-minute video talking about this stuff. Yeah, I thought I said that, Jerry. I want to know what the price is going to be. So Gamers Nexus put out like a whole video on this. And we're not going to watch the whole thing because it's a 45-minute video. But... Oh yeah, let's watch.
Now first, Valve has attempted to launch Steam machines before.
You guys remember that? Because we went over the old Steam controller, but I think I forgot to mention the old Steam machines. And if I remember right, the old Steam machines were like... Were they spherical? Ah, well, he'll explain it.
I was there in the before times at GDC in 2014.
Oh man, he was so young. It's crazy to see him with shorter hair, no beard.
2015, when a bunch of system integrators had
Twice! How you doing, buddy? It is good to see you.
The more the magicer.
I hope you're doing well. I know you got your stream going in about 45 minutes, so I'm really glad to see you here before you get your stream kicked off. Wish I could vote for both games in the poll. Yeah, I hope you're doing well, man. Yeah, they're both great games, but it's just which game to play next. Because I think Metal Gear Rising is a great game to just like get into and play and really like, to play it as, a focused game. Whereas Crazy Taxi, despite its like, frenetic gameplay, I think Crazy Taxi is a really great game to just kind of sit back and do like a chill hangout sort of stream. So who knows? I might do... we might use Crazy Taxi as the game that I do on like the Thanksgiving/birthday stream. But who knows? Yeah, I made it home early from work for once. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry they dragged you back into the office. That really sucks, man. I don't know if I'm better off being laid off as opposed to dragged into the office. You know what? Let me play this real quick. I think you'll get a kick out of this one. Speaking of gaming announcements, apparently that's from like the old Wii Music announcement. They just hired some guy to play the fake drums and have a seizure on stage. Feel you, Nightmare, we've all aged. I know, right? This is from what, like maybe 2013 or something? It's like, God. It's crazy. Doing well other than that? Good to see you. Yeah, I'm glad you're doing well, man. Yeah. Yeah, it sounded like you had an awesome vacation too. Yeah, I wanna do that someday. Worst drum solo ever. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I miss E3 press conferences. Yeah, that is the one thing I miss about E3 is all the like press conferences and announcements and all that. I know now they have like the Summer Games Fest, but you know. Yeah, there was something iconic about the whole thing. They got that drummer from a staffing agency. Nice. I know he's some kind of DJ, but
basically many ITX computers that Valve sort of said, look, it's not like literally a Steam machine, but if you call it that, we can't stop you. That's what they had. Never came out. They just launched its ITX computers from SIs, and that kind of killed the project there. It is coming out
I thought they were still running SteamOS though.
now, but unlike last time, Valve's going first party for hardware. SteamOS is available to partners if they want to work with other companies on it, so in theory other people could build their own. I guess it would just at that point be a SteamOS box, but they are now deploying SteamOS for their first significant first-party supported desktop, or basically desktop deployment with a Steam machine. That's important as well. So let's start with the Steam machine and the specs. The Steam machine uses a...
Okay, so he didn't go over it. So you know what? I'm going to pull him up here. Old Steam machine. Huh, okay, so I guess there were a bunch of different hardware. Oh yeah, and then they had the Steam Link, if you guys remember that. That was another streaming box. But yeah, I guess there were a few different types of Steam machines. I remember there was like one. I remember there was one that was like a spherical thing. But yeah, maybe my memory's just not what it used to be. Oh. Yeah. Ah, well.
This is a BGA solution with SODIMM memory and modular M.2 storage, shipping in 512 gigabyte and 2 terabyte models.
Yeah, so this probably addresses some of what you were thinking of, Snap, since you were asking about the storage on these. You can buy a 512 gig model or a 2 terabyte model, but I mean, that's still kind of small for either one. The original Steam machine was just a spec sheet. Yeah, so any manufacturer could do it, but it didn't catch on. Yep. 720p gaming. Well, now we'll just use FSR to upscale everything to 4K, right?
Models with the micro SD card slot for additional storage, and there's an optional Steam controller bundle. Micro SD cards can be pulled relatively seamlessly between the Steam Deck and the Steam machine and transplanted between each other with games on them. It should be simpler than Windows in that way. The CPU is an AMD 6-core 12-thread Zen 4 processor with its IGP fused off, and the GPU
I was muted. I'm just hoping the storage is not soldered on. I don't know. It's not clear. I don't think they've explained it. I know, Wingus. I just realized it.
I'm retarded?
Yeah, silence speaks a lot. Processor soldered on. Yeah, I figured that might be like an SoC. Like what Apple does with their hardware. Yeah, I hate Apple. Ugh.
GPU is a separate semi-custom RDNA.
So yeah, they're that. Yeah, it's exactly what Apple does. Yeah, yeah. Apple just solders everything onto the main board. Yeah, GPU is semi-custom here. So, okay, they're getting into the specs. Let's see.
Through the holes in the front if you remove the front panel, but as always there's trade-offs. So if you pull that front panel and more air comes in through there, that's going to come through the bottom. Something else might not get cool as much. Anyway, we'll test all that as soon as we have it in. There's a lot of thermal testing to do for that one and on new capacity.
And so essentially we just feel like now is the right time for us to make these happen, just because we finally feel like we have the software.
Oh, here you
can
go.
play around with frequencies. So there's some level of tuning you can do in BIOS. We asked Valve about its choice to go with the BGA Zen 4 solution rather than something socketable, seeing as that benefit from AM5's likely immortality if it's anything like AM4, and Valve considered modular CPUs and GPUs, but settled on soldering both chips to the board for thermal and size reasons. Unfortunately, this means it's not upgradable because they're soldered to the board, but it gives them more control over it, makes it smaller. The CPU has a peak frequency of 4.8 gigahertz from what they told us, which
So that's what I think what Jerry was saying earlier. The processor is soldered to the main board.
sounds similar to an R5 7640U. It's not exact, but it's kind of getting there. It falls short of something like an R5 7600. To do some tuning on the CPU, it's not a lot from what we understand. It sounds like basically they fused off some parts they're not going to use, like the IGP. They did whatever tuning they want to do on the volt frequency curve, and then otherwise there's firmware customization, software customization, of course, and then the fusing off of certain elements. Now, the AMD semi-custom solution, so Valve worked with AMD to do some tuning on the CPU. Silicon that's kind of getting us, which sounds similar to the CPU has a peak frequency of 4.8.
Yeah, semi-custom Zen 4. To be honest, I don't even remember what the various Zen generations are anymore. Yeah, I cannot remember what... I can't remember what chips fall under Zen 4. Probably for cost reasons, yeah.
4.8 gigahertz.
It is for what it is. It's, you know, both the CPU and the GPU is on it. Proud of how small it is for what it is. It's
Terminology. They sort of have two boost states. One is like a nominal boost under load, and then the other one is peak opportunistic boost.
I mean, I was on the motherboard, so I'm really proud of how small it is for what it is. It's, you know, both the CPU and the GPU is on it. We use the same thermal module to cool everything. So both the CPU and the GPU, the memory.
Like the IGP, they did whatever tuning they want to do on the volt frequency curve, and then otherwise there's firmware customization, software customization, of course, and then the fusing off of certain elements. Now, the 28 CU GPU, from what Valve is saying, operates typically at about 2.45 gigahertz under load, although its peak opportunistic boost would be higher if you're familiar with AMD's terminology. They sort of have two boost states. One is like a nominal boost under load, and then the other one is peak opportunistic boost.
I mean, I was on the motherboard, so
I'm guessing that you can't, but I was curious if the GPU is upgradable in some way. Let's see. 7000 series processor. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I have a 5950X in my PC. So mine is probably, I'm guessing mine is Zen 3. No, it's not. He just said it. That was the CPU. Okay, did he say it? I missed it. CPU and GPU are soldered in. Yeah. Peak opportunist boost works for 1 second. Valve has to know that if they price this too high, it won't go anywhere, like with the Steam Machine years ago. Yes and no. I think today there is some... there is some dedicated group of people who will buy whatever Valve puts out. But yeah, I do think if they price this too high, they're not going to sell as much as they want to. And that's going to go with all the different hardware. No PCIe ports. Gotcha. That makes sense. Wonder what AMD card is integrated in the motherboard? They said it's some custom thing.
CPU, GPU load, although it's peak
So it's a quote-unquote semi-custom AMD RDNA 3. I don't know what 28 CUs is.
opportunistic boost would be higher if you're familiar with AMD's terminology.
Or comparable.
They sort of have two boost states. One is like a nominal boost.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about AMD's GPU lineup. So, discrete is the terminology they used. Compute units. Yeah, that I don't really know what that refers to. This means SoC. Well, discrete would be the opposite of SoC, wouldn't it?
Boost under load, and then the other one is peak opportunistic boost.
I mean, I was on the motherboard, so I'm really proud of how small it is for
Yeah,
what it is.
same
It's,
stuff.
you know, both the
Same. I have always had NVIDIA GPUs. Although I think at one point I did have like Intel integrated graphics. That was about it.
CPU and the GPU is on it. We use the same thermal module to cool everything. So both the CPU and the GPU, the memory, and the FETs as well are all connected to the same thermal module.
Do you know, off the top of your head, the sort of power consumption during peak load or nominal load?
So the GPU is anywhere between 110 130 watts.
Okay.
We're still dialing that in, to be honest. The CPU is closer to 30 watts.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Same. Yeah. Save us, Daddy Jensen. No, please don't sell us out to China and OpenAI and whatever. I go the battle mage, works well until gaming. 30 watts seems low. What are GPUs these days? They're like, they sit around like what, 100 watts at least? I forget. It's RDNA 3 based, so think RX 7000 series GPUs. The higher ends had roughly 80 compute units. Gotcha. Okay. $90,001 watts for the flagships. Yeah. Also, I saw this on a comment. Aren't you glad Valve never mentioned these AI in their announcement? Yeah. I mean, yeah, they are a privately held company, so they don't really have to, do all the shareholder crap that a lot of companies do. So tired of that buzzword, yeah. I mean, it's just the new blockchain in a lot of ways with these companies, Although they did mention FSR, and FSR is AI, technically. AMD usually punches above their weight on Linux for what it's worth. Yeah, AMD is typically better compatibility-wise on Linux.
And once you add in memory and peripherals and all that kind of stuff, we're typically in the 200 plus watt range.
Now, in a later discussion, Valve locked down the GPU to 110 watts. We asked about the chipset. Valve said it's routing all of the I/O through the CPU rather than using an AMD chipset on the motherboard. This is an option with AMD. You can just go through the I/O die on the CPU. That is something that they support. We asked about the VRM. We'll have to wait for the teardown to get final answers, but here's what they said. Here's what Yazan knew off the top of his head.
A 6-phase for the GPU.
Okay. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, and then for the...
The reason I'm going through this, by the way, is because I want to get an answer to Snap's earlier question about storage. I want to know if the storage is going to be upgradable in some way.
CPU, we have 2 or 3 phases, I don't remember exactly. The problem is there's different rails. I'm trying so like the GPU, there's 6 phases for core, 2 or 3 phases for memory. For the CPU, it's I think total about 4 phases.
Okay.
Split between different rails.
VSOC and vCore and whatever, Power is handled by a 12-volt solution. It's only 12 volts. On a pure technicality, it's not necessarily 12 VO in the sense that it is using a blade connector instead of going through cabling. So this helps with a lot of things, primarily space, but there are other benefits as well. And it's a 300-watt power supply that's mated directly to the motherboard with the blade connector. Valve is doing something we want to give them credit for here, which is a lot of the mini PC companies, they are able to claim a smaller volume by shipping an external power brick with it instead. So it's kind of cheating at the numbers because there's still an external thing. They didn't shove it in the box, which means volume number lower and lower number better on that graph. So Valve shoved the power supply in the case, and that means they are taking up a decent amount of the Steam Machine's volume with a true internal power supply. Valve says that it hits over 92% efficiency in, quote, most scenarios, end quote. And given the thermal challenges and the space constraints, we think it's cool that they shoved it in here, and we're looking forward to taking it apart more.
We spent a lot of time thinking about airflow. Living room is actually a really challenging.
So it sounds like we're not going to get an answer. Let me Let me see if I can just search for it really quick. Steam Machine upgradable. I doubt we're gonna get an answer. Fallen Angel, how you doing, man? Good to see ya.
The more the magicer.
So it runs hot is what he meant with 92% efficiency. Who knows? Oh, here we go. Let's see. .2. So, I guess to answer your question, Snap, it seems like yeah, so he says the core parts that we're considering to be upgradable would be the M.2 storage, as well as the RAM, which is a bit harder. So the NVMe slot is accessible from the underside of the unit, and of course the two options, 512 or 2 terabyte. So yeah, there you go. So the Steam Machine also has 16 gigs of RAM, which is replaceable, but it's more involved as opposed to the SSD. So you'd have to remove the outer casing and the heatsink. So there you go. Yeah, I wanted to see if we could get you an answer there, Snap. Unfortunately, it was not in this video here. But we do have your answer. So you can upgrade the storage if you like. Well, yeah, the Steam Machine is a computer. That's like the whole point. It's the smaller form factor NVMe instead of the standard? I think so, yeah, the short ones. The RAM is SODIMM. I just closed the tab, but yeah, it said SODIMM, so it's laptop style. Let's see. It's just more. Oh! Here we go.
Interesting technical discussion. It's kind of a side shoot. It goes into PCB design and memory trace routing. And so this was cool, where the GPU is GDDR6 memory, VRAM, and that poses some unique challenges, Valve was telling us, where they ended up using a 10-layer PCB because of the memory solution. But here's the clip.
Adding layers.
The memory is upgradable with disassembly of the machine. It is laptop memory. We're not sure if it's 2 sticks or 1 at the moment. Replacing the stock M.2 2230 SSD is easier. It's directly exposed, and there is enough room for a standard 2280 drive. We had a really interesting technical discussion. It's kind of a side shoot. It goes into PCB design and...
So there you go. He did touch on it. Yeah, so the RAM is laptop RAM. You can replace it. It's a pain. The SSD, on the other hand, is directly accessible. So there you go. Yeah. Hopefully this works. Not sure what Expo is. Nice. Yeah. Let's see. Don't rub it in, Fallen Angel. Don't rub it in. Let's see. So yeah, so the frame here. This is, like I said, the Steam frame is what I'm most excited about.
Streaming. The frame is built modularly with a separable, fully contained, face-mounted ARM architecture computer running SteamOS. Now, we last covered VR in detail with the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. It's been a little while. That was back when the industry was a little crazy. Everything was branded with 2 letters on every device. VR. Fortunately, these days, as an industry, we've moved past using 2 letters to sell everything. Okay, look, it's not a good example right now, but now Meta's own ARM-based solutions are something we're popular right
Snap, I'm sure you'll love that joke.
Right now, and Valve did...
Okay, AMD's version of XMP, gotcha.
Launched the Index in the meantime, since the old HTC Vive that it partnered with them on, and it says that the price ceiling for the frame should be about where the Index is. The 440-gram headset consists of a front-mounted 185-gram core,
so this is
where the HTC Vive that it partnered with them on, and it says that the price ceiling Index in the meantime, since the old HTC Vive that it partnered with them on, and it says that the price ceiling for the frame using 2 letters to sell. Okay, look, it's not a good example right now, but now Meta's own ARM-based solutions are something that we're popular right now, and Valve did launch the Index in the meantime, since the old HTC Vive that it partnered with them on, and it says that the price ceiling for the frame should be about where the Index is. The 440-gram headset consists of a front-mounted 100.
So that should give us some idea on the Steam frame price. So let's see, Valve Index price. Oh, that's a lot of money. It's $1,000, which makes me very nervous. I am hoping that it's closer to like, since there are no base stations, I'm hoping it's closer to this price, but I don't know. Yeah, that I do not like the sound of that. You got AI fatigue. Hey, don't lump my AI waifu in with the rest of them. Exactly. AI doesn't commit crimes yet. 1,000, yeah. You remember him saying it's cheaper than the Index. Well, that'll be good. I hope so, because there are no base stations, right? So I would think that not having to include as much hardware would make it a bit cheaper. Oh, you can absolutely train it to say base things. I do remember Microsoft Tay. Rest in peace, Tay. You were too good for this world. Yeah. Yeah, VR is pricey as heck. It's a Google Pixel. Yeah, my next phone's probably going to be like something cheap, like $300-400 at most. The cable is also expensive, $150 for it alone. Which cable? The head strap? Yeah, everyone's calling it the Gabe Cube. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Tired of AI as a buzzword and everything. It's not exactly AI. Yeah, I'm tired of that. I'm also tired of AI being shoved into things where it's not needed. The Index cable. Yeah, okay, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I never had an Index. I had the original HTC Vive. So. Flip phones. Twice, are you still using that? Are you still using the same flip phone you had back in college? Because I remember, Twice is one of my dear college friends. I still remember back in the day. So when we were in college, he had a flip phone, and so I could not like text him or anything. We had to talk through like Facebook Messenger always. I'm curious if he still has the exact same flip phone that he used to, because flip phones are pretty durable. And you don't have to, because they don't do a whole lot, so you don't have to like upgrade them every few years. No, it's a new flip phone. Nice, dude. Actually, it's LM. Yeah. Well, so there are not everything AI is LLM though. Fallen Angel. It's important to keep that in mind, because like AI image generators, for example, they're not LLMs. They are something else. Flip phone master race. Yeah. Bought an Index in 2020 for Christmas. You like it, but replacement parts are crazy. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Your Nokia 3310 still works. Is that the one that was considered indestructible? I do have the original one still too in a cabinet somewhere. Nice. Oh, you know what? Let me see if I can find. Give me one sec. There's a great shitpost that I want to see if I can find, because it. Yes. So let me find it here. Oh, dang it! I gotta copy it over and. That's great. It is worth it. Okay, copy. here. Okay. Yeah, because you guys are gonna. I know you guys are gonna get a laugh out of this. So let me. This is the truth behind 9/11, chat. Yeah, I just need a new Chinese battery for a $5. Literally threw it at her wall 10 times when I was a kid. Yeah. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite shit posts about Nokia phones. It's like, oh, he just got mad. He threw his phone, and because the phone is indestructible, he caused 9/11. There you go. This is the real truth. There's an AI that made portraits. The interesting thing about it was that at the end, they made it forget what it did and matched pretty closely to the same condition in humans. Basically, there's a painter that was painting as he fell into mental illness, and in time, his faces and portraits became more and more abstract, and it mirrored what the AI did. Interesting. Yeah, so there are aspects of AI that work on a similar principle to the human brain. That's why they're called neural networks. I remember playing bowling on this Nokia. That thing was awesome. Nice. All right, so let's wrap this up.
185-gram core unit and a back-of-head mounted battery. Valve uses an onboard Snapdragon 8650 ARM solution with 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X for unified system memory and VRAM. The headset will have models with 256 gigabytes or 1 terabyte of storage.
And chat, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that if I get this thing, I'm just going to get the cheap low storage model, the 256 gig, because I have no plans on using this thing without my PC. Everything I want, I would probably just want to stream everything. Gonna get your Tylenol T. Keep your autism in check. No! No! Oh wait. You know, let me do this.
You slammed that, yo. This.
Retard alert!
Retard alert!
Retard alert! Retard alert!
Yeah, that was for you, Fallen Angel. Wow, buddy! I finally clipped it.
And the frame also.
But yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with the. If I can get this, I will probably just go with the lower storage, cheaper option, because I don't plan on playing anything directly off the directly off the headset. I would probably just stream everything from the PC. Perfection. Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's a huge triangle. I don't know what the context was, but yeah, for some reason he just has like a huge triangle for that stream. Yeah, I'm glad I clipped it too, Wingus. I'm glad you enjoy it. I clipped something else too, but I don't know if we're gonna get to it.
Frame also has a micro SD card slot, so you can use that to install more games or software. It has pancake lenses, 2160 by 2160 resolution LCDs, a 120Hz refresh rate.
This supports a regular micro SD? I believe so. That seems like what they're saying, micro SD card slot for extended storage. As opposed to, wait, what? What do you mean by, regular micro SD? What's the other, like SDXC? Is that what you're asking about? Just until 5-ish. Gotta head to an appointment. Alright, well. I hope your appointment goes well, Sergey. Oh, okay. It's not like the Switch 2 where it makes you... I don't know. I'm guessing that it's not going to force you to use anything, but I think the higher speed ones are probably recommended. That's my guess.
Refresh rate and a 144Hz experimental mode. FOV is up to 110 degrees. The 4 exterior cameras are mono.
So I happen to know that this is not what the Steam Frames front is going to look like. It's not going to be this like cool clear thing. It's just going to be black, and I'm really disappointed because I really wish that we would go back to like this 90s, early 2000s style of hardware design. Because I so much miss, like, you guys remember the old, like, Crystal, I think that's what they were called, Game Boy Color. Oh, yeah, that's Pokemon Crystal, but, translucent. Like, you guys remember when technology looked like this? You guys remember this stuff? When you had, like, these semi-transparent, shells on your technology, you had the Game Boy Color, you had, Nintendo 64, I don't know how much of this is real, but you had stuff like that. You had like the controllers. Yeah, the controllers were semi-transparent. You had other stuff too. So, Valve, come on. Make some semi-transparent stuff like this. Make this an official thing. It would just look so cool. It has to be Express or whatever is the new standard. The old ones are slower than DSLR cameras. Okay, gotcha. Can't think a game would be slower than that. Even hard disks have SSD buffers that make them work with games. Really? Interesting. Yeah, see, Sergey gets it. Neo, hey, how you doing, Neo?
The more the magicer.
Yeah, he had the Atomic Purple Game Boy Color. Yeah. Snap also, I think, is talking about the same thing. Spent so many hours playing Pokemon Blue on that. Yeah. Yeah, I missed that. I missed that, I'm guessing this is the one, maybe? No, this is, these are things they're selling. Here we go. I think this is the one you guys had. I missed that. I miss when technology looked like that. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I was up super late trying to get something to work for you, Neo. But yeah, I seriously miss when technology like looked like something you would actually want to buy instead of all this boring flat stuff. Yeah, it is a shame that this is not like what the actual unit's gonna look like.
Monochrome but IR sensitive, and the headset itself contains exterior IR illumination.
Right. Game console design peaked at transparent plastic. Absolutely. Although I will say that the original PS3 design with the Spider-Man font was also pretty cool, but that's just because I'm a Spider-Man fan, a Sam Raimi Spider-Man fan. But yeah, like the coolest stuff was the transparent plastic by far. And and as much as I hate Apple, I will give them credit for this. They did that too. So back in the day when their Macs looked like, looked like this. Remember you had these iMacs? There's a really nice blue one. They used to have that too, and I will give them credit. Back then, at least their Macs kind of looked cool with the semi-transparent casing, and they had like the little... Oh yeah, they had the little mouse as well. That was pretty cool. Yeah, Spider-Man, yeah. You have a transparent green Nintendo 64 and it's your favorite console? Yeah. Yeah, it just used to look so cool, you know? Oh, those weren't just monitors, Sergey. These were like... This was the whole PC, which is why it was so big.
Valve uses 2 internal eye tracking cameras for its new foveated streaming feature that we'll get into momentarily, and audio deploys 4 speakers built into the head strap and 2 microphones in the headset. Valve also has a PCIe Gen 4 custom connector at the front of the headset for future accessories or attachments, potentially they say for third parties to use, with an example given of support for a color camera. The headset can also stream games directly from a PC using a 6 GHz included USB router, bypassing traditional wireless routers for the rest of your network and communicating straight between the PC and the frame itself. The controllers have capacitive sensing for finger tracking, TMR thumbsticks, which are identical to the ones used in the new Steam controller, and a full set of standard controller buttons. They take regular AA batteries and
Well, that's interesting. You can use replaceable AA batteries in these.
And to quote Valve's spec sheet, they have, quote, full 6 degrees of freedom tracking and IMU support, end quote. Now, the frame's SoC is an ARM solution, so an ARM solution and
I do want to go back here.
Refresh rate and
So they mentioned pancake optics. I'm not familiar with pancake lenses. Dude needs to cut his nails. You know, some people are busy, sorry gay. You don't always have time to cut your nails.
a 144 hertz experimental mode.
Plus, he probably needs them to pull things apart, you know what I mean? I am curious about what pancake lenses are, because I'm not familiar with those. So let's see, pancake lens. That might be easier if we go. This is an AI summary, but I want to know what they look like. So until recently, let's take a look here. Until recently, we had these Fresnel lenses, which were these like sort of ridged lenses. They were like a big bulky lens, but they effectively cut layers into them to make them look like they were concentric rings. And they're pretty good, but the problem is that you get these like refraction. You get like refraction on the lenses, and it doesn't look very good. I just like to see an image of a pancake lens. So somehow, the technology has advanced, I guess, to where it seems like you don't... Yeah, see, so these are flat lenses rather than that awful Fresnel setup. Which is really exciting to me, because that means they're eliminating all the terrible God rays, as they were called. That terrible refraction. So I'm pretty excited about... So here, down here, you can see, right here. This is a Fresnel lens. And so you can see where like all those ridges are going to cause reflections. So I'm excited about this pancake lens thing. And so here's the... so we'll jump into what we were talking about earlier with the fact that the Steam Frame is an ARM device, but it's going to be able to run x86 games.
ARM solution in a VR head mount device is not that interesting, but SteamOS on ARM is pretty interesting, because thus far it's mounted on x86. So Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 8650 SoCs are used for the Steam Frame. These are on a 4nm process. And as for SteamOS on ARM, that includes ARM native compilations of DXVK and of VK D3D or Vulkan D3D. And it's also the first time that SteamOS is meaningfully expanding outside of handhelds, at least from any kind of first-party positioning, and into, for example, VR headsets. Now, the Steam Machine's also going to get a SteamOS, but that's built for x86. So it's a Zen 4 solution, BGA, as we talked about earlier in this video. The Proton translation layer for SteamOS software compatibility was already pretty successful for Valve. They put a lot of effort into that.
So this, you know, we touched on this earlier. Proton is their compatibility layer to play Windows games on Linux, which SteamOS is a flavor of distribution of Linux.
This is using significant development resources for FEX, F-E-X, emulation, in addition to the Proton translation layer.
Similar.
So this is what I was talking about earlier, and this is actually pretty amazing. They have created, kind of like Proton, they have created software that can, that is a compatibility layer for x86 programs on ARM Linux devices. So this, I mean, this is just amazing. So as it says, it offers broad compatibility with 32 and 64-bit binaries. I mean, yeah, this is just amazing. You're going to be able to play your typical games in the future on something running a mobile chip.
FEX, F-E-X, emulation in addition to the Proton translation layer.
Similarly to how for Steam Deck we had to make a lot of advances in Proton to make sure that was really solid before Steam Deck could be an actual viable product. For Steam Frame, we did a lot of work on FEX, which we see as a
Is it a translation layer?
It's actually an emulation layer.
Oh, okay.
So it's like emulating the instruction set from x86 to ARM.
Cool. Okay.
And then so it's actually doing both Proton and FEX so that you can play x86 games standalone.
As for software compatibility, like the existing DEC verify.
That's pretty amazing. You have to admit, an x86 emulation layer on ARM. That, I mean, for them to release it like this, it has to be pretty performant. So it has to work pretty decently well.
Verified program. Valve will be introducing a Steam Frame verified program specifically for running games locally on the frame.
In a similar way where when we launched Steam Deck, we had a lot of work to do on
Yeah,
Proton,
exactly.
and as time went on, we patched a lot of the holes, and then it became more of a surprise when a game didn't work through Proton on Steam Deck.
Right.
We're doing this, we're in the same process with FEX as well. So like right now we're pleasantly surprised that so many games are just working, and we know that once we get these into developer hands, we'll be able to learn a lot more, and ahead of launch, we'll have a sizable library.
Valve also told us that developers will be able to ship VR APKs on Steam, and for games with multiple versions, Steam will automatically choose the appropriate build, but it can be.
Okay, so it does sound like there's some compatibility with Android APKs here, since they mentioned using APKs. So I think Jerry was onto something.
Overridden. Valve stated, quote, APKs can also be side-loadable, just like any non-Steam applications on Steam Deck. We expect that VR APKs that don't leverage proprietary APIs to just work, end quote. The microSD card slot should theoretically allow for seamless library swapping between other SteamOS devices and the frame, like the Steam Deck and feasibly the Steam Machine, on a single SD card. This is something that Valve confirmed, as we talked about earlier, for the Deck to Machine sort of transition, and it should work the same to the frame. The only thing we're not 100% sure about there is the architectural change between them, with ARM coming into the mix. So we'll still have to test this stuff, of course. Valve is pushing the use your headset as your display approach, even for non-VR content. Thus far, nobody, including Apple even, has been able to fully sell a mainstream audience on this approach.
So I would say Steam Frame kind of represents a fundamental shift in the way that we think about VR. Rather than being a PC VR accessory for your PC VR titles, we see Steam Frame as just a new way to experience your entire Steam library, whether it's VR or not.
A wireless adapter. This is a USB 3.
Okay.
And it's a 6 gigahertz native.
So I want to jump into the explanation on foveated streaming, which is what I was talking about earlier, which it's that really cool technology where it tracks your eye movements and it renders higher resolution where you're looking. So at some point in this section, they should go over that.
Native router, and it talks directly between your PC and this device. So there's a whole bunch of channels, and that allows us high bandwidth, high robustness, and low latency. And it's a dedicated link just between these two devices.
Right.
Similarly, this headset has 2 radios and antennas, which means we can guarantee that one of those antennas is locked off to this dedicated connection on 6 gigahertz, while Wi-Fi is talking on the 5 gigahertz spectrum simultaneously to your local router.
The dedicated wireless dongle isn't a new idea, but Valve has planned around it from the ground up. Valve told us that, quote, the Steam Frame headset is Wi-Fi 7 capable, and when paired to your existing Wi-Fi, other streaming features, including foveated streaming and simultaneous 5 and 6 gigahertz, are still available and work great, end quote. So it's not strictly required to use the wireless dongle. Alongside the dedicated wireless link, the second piece of Valve...
It is pretty clever, though, what they did. So that dongle runs on a particular part of the Wi-Fi spectrum that is not in high use. So in Wi-Fi 6, and Wi-Fi 6 has a shorter range. So it's not as good for, like, covering your home network necessarily, but it's perfect for something like this since you don't really need to worry about going through walls. So since most likely you and your PC will be in the same room when you're playing in VR, the streaming is going. Your stream is not going to have to travel through a wall, so your connection is going to be pretty good.
Valve's pitch for local streaming is foveated streaming. The naming is inspired from foveated rendering, which is a related concept that uses eye tracking to deprioritize the screen area in your periphery and render it at a lower resolution. This allows for increased frame rate, and a high FPS remains critical for VR headsets to avoid...
So this is what I was talking about earlier, the foveated streaming. At least we'll get to it, Jerry. We'll get to it.
motion sickness in users. Now, historically, when VR first launched, the target was 90 hertz, 90 FPS, to avoid any sort of really bad feeling. The devices these days can go a little bit lower, but still higher is going to be a lot better with VR in particular. So these technologies are used to focus the sort of density of image quality to where the user's looking. Now, eye tracking updates every 8 to 12 milliseconds according to Valve, although the hardware could go faster. So this meets Valve's goal, they say, for stream quality while reducing power usage and getting the responsiveness they say they want. When we looked at Valve's debug tool, the company shows user eye position, which is pretty cool, and reflects the area of highest quality rendering based on that. We tested this for a minute or two at the end of the session. We couldn't immediately notice any lag in the render quality shifting, although we haven't had time to actually analyze it, of course. The software also showed where in the frame lifecycle and rendering pipeline the most time was allocated. It harkens back to some of our talks about simulation time error, animation error, and just frame lifecycles with Tom Peterson. Here's what Valve said about foveated streaming.
So what we're doing is at the streaming layer, we're calling it foveated streaming, where the areas that you're looking, we send essentially the full high quality content at the highest fidelity we can. And then for everywhere else you're not looking, we're borrowing those bits and also throwing them at that place where you're looking. So for instance, if we had, say, 1/10 of the pixel area is where you're looking, which is a very common number, then that's effectively a 10x multiplier in effective bandwidth, quality, as well as reduced latency, because we can steer all of those bits to where you're looking. And that only works because the eye tracking is fast enough that as you look around the scene, we send the bits to where you're going to look before you land there.
I think that's pretty amazing. They found a way to use eye tracking to make the stream extra efficient, so they only have to really focus on the part that you're looking at. And everything else is just kind of, it's still rendered, but it's rendered in lower resolution. Or not rendered, streamed, sorry. So that lower resolution section is kind of sacrificed without too much of a quality sacrifice from an experience standpoint. So that what you're actually looking at is rendered in really high quality. Or streamed in really high quality. I keep saying rendered. So I think that is a really great innovation. It should really help the streaming performance.
Foveated rendering is already an established technology. Without that sort of baseline, it'd be hard to believe that foveated streaming could be reactive enough to not have some kind of downside. Now again, in the really quick testing we did, couldn't see any change, any difference in the image quality, meaning when I moved my eyes from here to here, it didn't feel like anything was left behind in that transition. And for people familiar with foveated rendering, that should be a pretty familiar experience. We still need to test it more, of course, but it looks promising so far. Now, there are a ton of variables involved with the performance here. That includes the performance of the host PC itself, the frame rate, things of that nature, but we did ask Valve for kind of a ballpark end-to-end total system latency when streaming, obviously contingent upon the frame rate, the performance of the PC. They were giving us a number of 10 to 20 milliseconds, and that is total end-to-end in a good use case condition, meaning that the thing we were trying to focus down on was the actual slowest link being potentially is it the streaming itself to the device. And so 10 to 20 milliseconds was the target there. That includes encoding, transmission, and decoding on the other side. The target bandwidth is 250 megabits per second, and regardless of whether the headset is running wireless or wired, that's the baseline for that loose 10x multiplier that they mentioned in effective quality that Valve is claiming. Everyone seems pretty
That's pretty cool.
Confused about the Quest 3's maximum theoretical bandwidth. So part of Valve's advantage here is that it's shipping the streaming hardware with the headset. So everyone gets a consistent high performance experience, which is for streaming. It doesn't matter what router you have or whether your PC has a wired internet connection. Foveated streaming is also a system level solution. So that means there is no additional developer support required. They do not have to explicitly build this in and support it for games. It's just there because it is a system wide thing that's already in
which is awesome. So it's going to work for everything.
Plays. So in contrast to previous Valve headsets, the frame is a standalone battery.
So, yeah, so we've been over, I think, most of this. It's a standalone headset, wireless. It's got a battery pack, all that. So I want to jump ahead a little bit to... We went over the Steam Controller basics, but I do want to look into some of the specifics about the battery repairability and stuff like that. So, and the puck as well. I'm interested in the puck here.
Comes directly
Oh yeah, and here he's going over the old Steam controller. You guys remember? We just went over that earlier. But.
From the original controller. Bluetooth is still an option, but it has its downsides.
So if you add multiple devices, they share the bandwidth, and then when that bandwidth runs out, you have issues with lag and dropout. Yeah.
But also it's just different PCs have different Bluetooth capabilities, different RF environments. It's more about the consistency than anything. Like
that was something that we learned on Index, and we brought that in for here.
Okay. So cost and also just functional.
Cost, functionality, and it actually gives us, we say.
Where does the antenna end up?
So the antenna, you can see the thumbsticks are here, the antenna's there. So it's kind of right in the ideal spot where you're not putting your finger up here in normal gameplay.
A question we had here was, if you have 4 devices connected through the same hub for the controllers, is there any concern of latency or dropout or other issues as a result of 4 devices just sort of sharing the same connection ultimately? And Valve claimed approximately 8 milliseconds of latency with the wireless connection to the puck, as they call it, but they did emphasize that performance should not worsen as more controllers are connected, up to, again, 4 for one puck. The Steam machine actually has... Now, the puck also functions as a magnetic charger with pogo pins. Valve says its conservative estimate for battery life is 35 hours. The battery is a lithium-ion pack. We asked about user serviceability and repairability of the controller in general, but specifically getting access to the battery if someone wanted to replace it. Valve said that it is intended to be user serviceable in the sense that you can get into everything with a screwdriver.
So that is interesting. So it's not easily, conveniently replaceable, but if you do want to open up the controller, you could, in theory, open it up and swap out the battery if you wanted to. So that's what I was curious about. I wanted to get some info on that. And that's good. I think repairability, user serviceability is very, very important. And so if you can repair your stuff, you can repair the controller, that might make it even more of a controller worth buying.
They didn't talk about any plans to provide parts or anything like that, but it sounds like it's at least not hostile towards the user if you want to open it. In addition to the touchpad haptics already found on the Steam Deck, the controller contains more advanced haptics as well.
One example that helps is think of it like speakers. So like some speakers have really wideband performance and like they're pretty flat for a big frequency range. Some speakers don't, right? They are like a bass that only operates in kind of very narrow frequency band. And so basically what we have in the haptics world.
Valve was also clearly proud of its TMR, or tunnel magnetoresistance thumbsticks, which sounds like something that Magneto invented. And these are the popular successor to Hall effect sticks.
And you can see these thumbsticks. One of the things that, Hall sensor thumbsticks have been a big thing in the industry. TMR is kind of new to the scene. It solves some of the power problems that Hall had, and keeping the sensitivity.
Are these off the shelf? Are they customized for the sticks that you guys are using?
We work with external suppliers, and like we're not fully integrating the thumbstick into like the mechanical housings.
Okay.
But yeah, we're using off-the-shelf suppliers for these.
The controller contains a 6-axis IMU and capacitive grip.
So yeah, that's a little more on the TMR sensors, and I think, or the TMR thumbsticks. I think that's kind of it. So I think that's pretty interesting. Like I said, the Steam frame, the Steam machine is probably what I'm least interested in, just because it's basically another gaming PC, and I already got one of those. Steam controller looks pretty cool. That's kind of a questionable. Do you want it? Do I really want it? Do I need it? I already got like 3 controllers. But the Steam frame I'm really excited about, because I think that is an actual big step in terms of VR.